So it would have been a very big sports week in Atlanta. Not only would you have the Padres in town, but also the NCAA basketball championship. The Aztecs this year, they went 30-2. They were obviously primed to make some kind of run in the NCAA tournament. It's an incredible story when you think about it. The fact that those guys weren't able to have true conclusion to their season. But assistant basketball coach at San Diego State, Dave Velasquez, was nice enough to join me earlier this afternoon. We talked about that and more. Coach, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. Very glad to hear your family's doing all right. Obviously, scary times for everybody, but from a basketball perspective, congratulations to you, the Aztecs, the players, the coaches, everybody. Just an absolutely incredible season this past year.
Thank you so much. It was such a fun ride. And the reason why it was such a fun ride, and it wasn't just for the amazing support we got from our students, our community, all of San Diego, and then the love we got across college basketball was outstanding. But what really made it special was the group of guys. And we had a special group of individuals that came together as a team. Their chemistry was off the charts. They practiced hard every day. It's a group that you wish you could coach the rest of your career. It was a special group, and we had big things ahead of us. And but at the end of the day, we had so many great memories together, and we look forward to even creating some more memories next year.
What was that moment like when you guys got everybody together? I don't know if it happened virtually or in person, and kind of had to discuss the end of the season, which of course was not the one anybody was anticipating. You guys are, very much legitimate national championship contenders, and then we find out the entire tournament has been canceled. There have been rumors, kind of leading up to that. But what was that moment like for you guys to kind of get with everybody one final time?
Well, if you think back, everything just happened so fast, and part of that was we were at practice. I had one of our managers come over to myself and another one of our coaches and tell us that they announced that there'll be no fans allowed at the tournament. So, I said, don't mention anything to the guys. Let's get through this practice. We had another great practice. We went downstairs to the film room and we told them, hey, fellas, they just ruled that there's going to be no fans at the NCAA tournament. And at that point, it was hard, but we kind of knew we're just lucky to still have the tournament. And then within 24 hours, the entire tournament got canceled. And then so from that point on, we actually never got together as a team again. It wasn't recommended that we get together as a group. And we did a lot of individual meetings with Coach Dutcher. Every player met with Coach Dutcher at least twice before they ended up leaving town. But we've all talked to them, all the coaches. We've all stayed in touch with our guys. And it's just one of those things. It was a sad moment when it first happened that we're not going to have fans, but then it was just crushing when you found out there was no NCAA tournament. But to be honest, the group we had was so mature. By the time Saturday and Sunday of that week came around, it was so much bigger than the NCAA tournament. There's so many other bigger things going on in this world, and it's this crazy time that was actually helped us kind of get over it a little bit quicker than probably usual.
Wow, it says a lot, like you said, about the maturity of the group and the perspective everybody was able to have. What was the message, to the kids? Obviously, that's going to differ, a little bit from guy to guy, but maybe the overarching thing, you as coaches, as teachers, as mentors, wanted these guys to take away from not just this, part of the situation, but everything overall this year.
Just enjoy the ride, enjoy the moment. Let's not get too sad, and there's nothing we can control. Let's get mad at the things we can't control and not worry about the things we can't control. And what we can't control were the 32 games and going 30-2 and how hard they practiced and how many great memories they shared together. It was really a fantastic just group to be around, like I had mentioned earlier. And for us, with the seniors, you feel for them. I still do. I talked to Yanni the other day and talked to KJ last week. My heart breaks. And Nolan Arain, Nolan at least got a chance to be there before. But for Yanni Wetzel and KJ Fagan, who had never played in the NCAA tournament, it's just a whole different feel. And then for Malachi and now this decision that he's going to have to make here coming up on whether he goes to the NBA or doesn't or test the waters, whatever he decides to do. He was one of those guys. He was primed to be that kind of that March Madness darling that the entire country gets to see, whole world gets to see how good of a player he is. And Malachi was ready to go. Our whole team was ready to go. And that just kind of, for the other guys coming back, the Matt Mitchell, Jordan Shackle, Adam Stako, Trey Pullman, every single guy that's coming back, you can really build off of why we were 30-2. We weren't 30-2 because we kind of went through the motions. We were 30-2 for a lot of reasons. And they now have an opportunity going into their senior years or junior year to really make a special season ahead of them again. And we got a lot of great talent coming back, and we're excited for next year. But it's disappointing we didn't get a chance to really shine on the biggest stage.
This might be an impossible question to answer, and I don't know how much thought you've given to it. But let's imagine it's 15 years from now, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what do you remember about that 2019-2020 season at San Diego State? What will you be able to tell them about that 30-2 run?
That's a hard question because there's going to be right now there's 25 memories that come to my mind. But from a coaching standpoint, I always just remember how engaged they were in the film room. I'll remember how they never took any practices lightly. I remember how many early morning workouts they all did individually to get themselves better. And then I remember how they are after our loss versus UNLV, to be honest. And as a coach, you hate to say this, but every coach would tell you, you remember the losses way more than the wins. And we've had some great wins this year, and I'm never going to forget those. But I'll never forget how that locker room felt after we lost to UNLV at home. We were 26-0 at the time, but there was just this feeling of, all right, we're going to be okay, but let's not let that happen again. And then obviously the feeling after the loss against Utah State, where, it's one of those things, 3 games, 3 days. Sam Merrill hit that crazy shot. But to me, was those memories as a coach, you always want back. I sit here and I'm like all our players, I wish we were 32-0 right now. And you're still in that kind of moment right now as you talk about, the memories of this season. But there's so many. To me, to be honest, the one I always tell people about, the one I tell recruits about, Staples Center that day, when we went in and we played Utah, they're coming off beating Kentucky. And they played great. And they beat Kentucky 3 days earlier. And we came into Staples Center, and the way our crowd showed up in the Staples Center, how loud they were, how proud they were to be an Aztec fan, was incredible. It's something I'll never forget. And from the beginning of that game, you could feel them. And we never let up, and we ended up winning that game, I think, by 32 points. And it was such a special, special day. We've always wanted to play in Staples Center. That's San Diego State's first game ever in Staples Center. So it was a special, special night.
Speaking of the fans, not just that night, but boy, were they special all year long at home and sometimes on the road as well. That's nothing new, obviously, on that campus, but what an absolutely incredible environment that's been created there.
It's unbelievable. It not only helps us win. The thing that I don't know if all fans really understand, how much it helps us recruit. Because when you talk to all these recruits, and that's really all we're doing right now, is talking to transfer recruits, we're talking to high school recruits. We have one of the best, if not the best, atmosphere in college basketball. And I don't, and I say that lightly because I know there's other really good atmospheres. But if you were there on that Kawhi night, if you were in that building, there's no way there's ever been a better atmosphere for college basketball. That when we played Utah State at home and won that game and came back from down 10 in the second half, that was as good as college basketball gets. And our fans showed up all season long. Our student section was phenomenal. And so from a coaching standpoint and as a recruiter standpoint, that helps in so many different ways, not just on the floor, but off the floor in terms of having a high major program that we can attract high major players and we can win at a high, major level. That's our goal. We don't really care what it says but when we see the chest of the other team, we're as good as you. We expect to beat you. And part of that is getting really good players. And part of getting really good players is having an incredible fan base and having an incredible student section.
Yeah, well, I know I speak for anybody who spent any amount of time there on a game day. It is very, very special, like you said. Coach, really appreciate your time. Great to catch up with you again. Glad everything is okay with your family. Continue work those recruits, and congratulations again on just a phenomenal season.
Thank you so much for having me.